the Chicago Bulls are forced to make an impossible decision. While the Chicago Bulls are suffering from buyer's remorse after giving Patrick Williams the 5-year, $90 million deal last season, there's still one way the Chicago Bulls can still extract value from Patrick Williams himself. Hello, my name is Isaias Jackson Jr. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Bulls Digest. We're going to get into all the news and notes at Patrick Williams, and one way the Chicago Bulls can still bleed that potential out of Patrick Williams and we can still get what we have expected from the man since he came on to the team so far. However, 67.5% of you guys are not subscribed. 32.5% of you guys are. We appreciate you guys on both sides. The clouds are coming in. It was rumbling, tumbling. I work with kids, so it was absolutely just terrifying. By terrifying, it's kids, so it's a lot scarier than what it was. But still, the wind was blowing, the lights flickering on and off, as I mentioned before. And one way to keep those lights on and to bring that good luck to you and your household is to hitting that subscribe button, like and share. These are your household, your workplace, wherever you're at. Maintain the light and the electricity. Hit that subscribe button, like and share, and thank you guys so much for tuning into Bulls Digest. There's one way the Bulls can still extract value from Patrick Williams in 2025, 2026. Now this, of course, you're asking for a whole lot. Now, it hurts me when I read this next sentence, of course. Williams could be useful to Chicago in a smaller bench role. Now, this is where you kind of just throw everything out the window, because when there's one way to still extract value from Patrick Williams, I do think that's a little bit of an insult in a way, because you shouldn't have to still extract value from a man that you paid $90 million to for 5 years, and that's just something that is a bit extreme, and I'm talking about just the digression, just seeing Patrick Williams digress throughout the years. And of course, seeing pretty much the Chicago Bulls just with the quickness give him that 5-year, $90 million deals, because you're paying off potential. You're paying off what Patrick Williams can become instead of the results that we're seeing now. So the fact that you pay the man 5 years, $90 million, and the number one way the Chicago Bulls can still extract value is to put him on the bench and to give him a smaller role. That doesn't happen in real life. You can't go up to your job. Can I get paid more and get a smaller role as well? It just doesn't work like that. So of course, that right there, I think is just a gut punch for the Chicago Bulls in more ways than one. Yeah, here's one way you can get value out of a guy that you just paid $90 million to. Give him a smaller role. And also, it plays a part because to also sprinkle in some positivity here. You have some guys that's coming in young and hungry. Of course, Noah Sengay and the work that he's done over in the offseason. Montes Buzelis, of course, showing out in a big way for the Chicago Bulls. So we're seeing a whole lot of work being done down low in the Chicago Bulls in terms of just the youth that was being added. Now, Zach Collins, of course, we seen him play some minutes for the Chicago Bulls. Now it's just a matter of what they're going to get from Nikola Vucevic and who they are going to bring in that instance, and who is going to be the big man down low. I don't necessarily think Nikola Vucevic is going to be a Chicago Bull for long, so it's just a matter of who are you going to have down low who can also possibly be a 4 and 5 instead of just being just a solid 5 down low. Also bringing less minutes to Patrick Williams even more. So honestly, like I said, just a gut punch there. When you already paid the man, you already give this guy the 5-year, $90 million after him wanting over $100 million. I'm glad the Chicago Bulls were at least thoughtful in that. At least Karnasovis at least kind of came down and said, look, we're going to go at least under 100 million, at least give you 90 million, stop it off right there. Yeah, she still hasn't played like a $90 million player at all since getting that money. So by this point, Patrick Williams has proven he's not a starting caliber player in the NBA, but there's still a productive role he can fill for the Chicago Bulls this season, a reserve combo forward. So after 5 years in the league, it's fair to call the number 4 pick in the 2020 NBA draft a bust. Nah, you guys let me know in the comments. Is Patrick Williams a flat out bust? Man, see, 5 years? I don't know. I still think, because Patrick Williams is 22, 23 years old. Like, you got to give this man a little bit of time. You got to give this man a little bit of time, man. I don't necessarily think this man is just a bust. I don't want to give him that notion just yet. No, I'm gonna wait till he's at least out of the league, to at least go that far. But a bust, I don't know. But you guys, let me know in the comments, is Patrick Williams a bust in your eyes? Across 276 career games, 211 of them starts, Williams had posted a single-digit average of 9.6 points, 4.1 rebounds. He's become a solid three-point shooter, connecting on 39% of his 3.1 triples per game, but still hasn't developed much else. And of course, we talked about him coming into the league. Of course, the nickname Baby Claw being not even attached to him. It was just a funny name that was being put on him just because of his personality and, of course, just the freakish hands that he had. And, of course, him expected of him to have that defensive prowess, and of course him being the defensive man, not necessarily being more so 3-and-D, because we thought the offense was going to be a little bit better as seasons progressed. Just wasn't the case. And so now we have the Patrick Williams that we have now, a guy that's pretty much dribbling the ball off of his feet, off of fast breaks, or pretty much slipping the balls out of his hands during his handles, trying to break down his defenders. You know, just the regular Patrick. And I'm not trying, this isn't a Patrick Williams hate video at all, because I was a huge fan of Patrick Williams. I still think the Chicago Bulls, as soon as they trade him, he is going to be an amazing player somewhere else. I do think he's going to grind, get that starting time, and just be electric for somebody that knows how to use him effectively. And that's just not a dig at Billy Donovan. It's just, I do think Patrick Williams would just work better elsewhere. The one-and-done freshman was a tantalizing prospect with elite physical traits coming out of Florida State. He's an elite athlete with a solid 6'7" frame who can defend multiple positions and space the floor. What he seems to be missing is any inkling of competitiveness. That's a fact. Despite those natural gifts, Williams' lack of aggression can make it easy for those to forget he's even on the floor. And yeah, and as we mentioned before, the turnovers would definitely help you remember. But even with that, you can see Patrick Williams. I mean, that mid-range, there was a point in time where the mid-range, not necessarily saying that it was automatic, but you can trust, Patrick Williams with his mid-range game the first 2 or 3 seasons in his career. And then you get, as the seasons progress, you're not getting that aggression from him. He's not attacking the rim as he used to. Man, he's not even going, you're not even seeing him get that drive to go down low for the rebounds. Just seeing him go and attack the basket right there and be any sort of help, at least on the offensive rebounding side there. And so with Patrick Williams there in that instance, the aggression is something that we just haven't seen in a while. And that's one thing that has definitely hurt him in more ways than one. So maybe that's what the Bulls and head coach Billy Donovan need to lean into, limit the 23-year-old's minutes, and hope he can have more of an impact in shorter spurts against other teams' bench units. And of course, just meaning he's not going to be facing starters. He's not going to be facing the go-to guys that you're going to have written, of course, on your scouting report in that instance. So Patrick Williams, of course, he's going to get his reps. He's going to get, of course, his minutes in not necessarily going to say garbage time, but he's not going to be seeing his spurts in those clutch moments. We're not going to be seeing him in crunch time. We're not going to be seeing him when the Chicago Bulls need to get off on a run, or when the Chicago Bulls, we probably might see him if the Chicago Bulls need a defensive stop. But hey, Patrick Williams right now in this instance, and he's working on his game. We talked about him, Ayo, Buzelis, and even at a point, Lonzo Ball just being out training, and Kobe White as well, doing season workouts, playing, just running scrimmages, and still hooping during the off season, and just staying active and staying fit. Especially as we've seen in the summer league. With Noah Singay and, of course, Buzelis. So the Chicago Bulls can only do one thing with Patrick Williams at this point. Williams will never make good on the 5-year, $90 million contract Chicago's front office gave him last offseason. It could be the worst decision Vice President of Basketball Operations Arturas Karnisovas made during this time with the Bulls, and that's not exactly a short list. We can talk about that for all day. But all the organization can do is try to ignore that off-the-wall contract and focus on what the value Williams can add to the team. And of course, when Donovan inserts Buzelis into the starting lineup and Williams in place for good last season, his minutes dropped from 26 minutes to 22 minutes per game. During that stretch, he averaged 8.8 points, 3.7 rebounds, and down from 9.1 to 3.8 respectively during his 36 games he appeared in. His field goal attempts went from 8.6 down to 7.6, while his effective field goal percentage jumped from 46% from 52%. So, of course, we're seeing a jump in efficiency there. And, of course, as we talked about, matchup changes as well with the minutes that Patrick Williams has been given. So, the Bulls were 16-11 over those final 31 games versus the 15-21 over Williams' first 36. And, of course, that we can also look at how the Chicago Bulls started off those games as well over the first 36 games that the Chicago Bulls had. Of course, definitely was a rocky way to start the season, so won't necessarily put that on Patrick Williams per se. But of course, if he was a little bit more aggressive, we would have got a little bit more aggressiveness from Patrick Williams. If we would have at least saw the potential that we thought he was going to reach, at least at this 23 year of age. Not necessarily saying that he was going to be the GOAT, not necessarily saying that he was going to be a star, but somebody that you could rely on a team like the Chicago Bulls, a hustle guy that's going to come through and lock in for the Chicago Bulls. Of course, Buzelis is a lock to be Chicago's starting power forward this year and take on more of an offensive burden. Karnisovas acquired Isaac Okoro from the Cleveland Cavaliers, another athletic combo forward, only more proven and consistent. Ayo Dosunmu will start the year healthy and could slot into the starting group as a third guard, and that's I think also what hurts the most. Not with Ayo Dosunmu, but Isaac Okoro. When I finally saw the trade between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Chicago Bulls with Isaac Okoro and Lonzo Ball, I figured Patrick Williams was gone. Patrick, you're not gonna have Patrick Williams and Isaac Okoro there. Then I don't think them battling for minutes, at this point in time is necessarily going to be the best way to improve, Patrick Williams' game and also give him and add on more minutes to his game as well. I just think the best bet will just be to trade him off and get some value for Patrick Williams in that instance. But even going forward, Kevin Huerter is a guard wing who will get a solid dose of minutes as well. Rookie Noah Sengay, the 12th pick in this year's draft, plays Williams' position. Of course, Julian Phillips, Julian Phillips, love me some Julian Phillips at 21 years old, who's played 14.2 minutes last season. And of course, night and day Julian Phillips is. Haven't expected too much from the man, but there's still a bright side with Julian Phillips. Williams proved to be more efficient, proved to be a more efficient player as a reserve. He'll fit the same role in the 2025-2026, but his minutes could be cut even further with a Okoro and a Sengay in the fold. He would be an expensive 7th or 8th man, but will be more of an asset to the Bulls as that type of contributor. If he's stuck in Chicago for 4 more seasons, Donovan may as well get the best out of Williams and potentially deepen and improve his bench while doing it. And no, especially to that second paragraph there. He would be an expensive 7th or 8th man, but he would be more of an asset to the Bulls as that type of contributor. And the only way I could see you being that great of an asset to the Chicago Bulls as that type of contributor, of course, is through injury. Unfortunately, if you're not even going to speak it into existence, but if the Chicago Bulls come down with an unfortunate injury, you have somebody like Patrick Williams. Okay, man, you were ready for this. You were born for this, in more ways than one. Hell, this is your spot. This is your spot. You're just literally taking over what should have been yours. And so with Patrick Williams in this instance, you got to come to the conclusion that, man, you're not going to be getting the best out of this man right now when you're bringing in a lot of talent. And when you have Noah Sengay, of course, when you have Montes Buzelis, you don't know what you're getting from Nikola Vucevic in that trade or in the buyout, whatever Nikola Vucevic is going to do or planning to do. Between the Chicago Bulls. Of course, we talked about Julian Phillips. Of course, you have Isaac Okoro, who's just came in. Ayo Dosunmu, who's just is getting healthy and ready for this next season. Your minutes are wearing thin, and when your minutes were already cut last season, and you already got paid that season prior, buddy, this is at a point in time where if your role needs to be shortened, when, as I mentioned before, you already gotten a whole lot of money, you're not paid, at least in this instance, for the Chicago Bulls, especially when you have competitive aspirations. The last thing you need to do is to be paying a man to just ride the bench, and at least hopefully at some point in time, we hope that his potential will shine out and we can put him in that starting role and we can use him as a really, really great contributor to the team. But no, we have to raise up. We have to wait until his stock rises up. No, at this point in time, look, he's young, 23 years old. We already know what. I mean, we could just look at the stats right here. What he's done for the Chicago Bulls last season: 25 minutes per game, 9 points per game, 3.8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.4 turnovers, 39% from field goal range, 35% from 3-point range. 6'7", 23 years old. Of course, he shoots 39% of corner threes. 93% of his threes are assisted as well. And so the man, especially on his good days, when you see Patrick Williams come through, and when you see Patrick Williams hot, on a rarity, when Patrick Williams does, wake up and, I feel like dropping 20 today, on Sacramento, just out of nowhere. And then, of course, he goes on this string of, okay, now we're back to 9. Now we're back to 8. Man, we got a solid 15-point game from Patrick Williams. Okay, cool. Oh, well, one for 5. I mean, he shot 5 shots. It's just like that we shouldn't have low expectations on a man that we just opened up our wallet and paid for. And that we, not paid for, that sounds awful. That we just paid to bring back into our team. So, obviously, not ours, but for the Chicago Bulls. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that putting Patrick Williams at a smaller bench role is actually helpful and it contributes more to the Chicago Bulls? Or do you think just trading him and seeing what value you can get from Patrick Williams helps out a whole lot in more ways than one? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.